We have seen all types of nonsense. You know what I mean? We are all sick and tired of it at this point. This has been going on since before last season started. This was going on before the inaugural Unrivaled season started, where we had Angel Reese and people on her podcast talking about how Unrivaled is going to be the only league people was playing in. They was already planning the end of the WNBA.
That frustration you're hearing right now captures exactly where every WNBA fan sits today. We're watching complete chaos instead of actual basketball. These CBA talks have devolved into some kind of digital warfare between league executives and player reps, with Twitter threads replacing real negotiations. But while everyone's getting caught up in this drama, there's a massive storyline developing that nobody's talking about. Caitlin Clark is walking into what could be her most challenging year yet, and the biggest threats aren't coming from where you'd expect.
5. Sabrina Ionescu. This is a great competitive rivalry. They play a clean game, okay? They actually play a clean game of basketball versus each other. It does not look like they should be in orange jumpsuits in prison. They actually play legitimate basketball, and they showcase their skill and that competitive drive. It's fiery. They don't let each other do anything.
Let's kick this off with the most straightforward challenge. Sabrina Ionescu sits at number 5, and honestly, this matchup just works. When these two get on the court together, you actually see basketball being played instead of whatever that other nonsense is supposed to be. Their head-to-head battles last year produced 28 combined points on average, with both players refusing to back down. Those Liberty versus Fever games pulled television numbers that made executives take notice, hitting 1.8 million viewers when they met in July. But here's what made those contests special compared to the rest of the league's circus acts. 0 dirty plays, 0 dramatic flopping, 0 manufactured controversy afterward. Just 2 exceptional guards trading baskets and pushing each other to be better. Sabrina managed to lock Caitlin into some of her worst shooting performances, limiting her to just 38% from the floor in their matchups, while Caitlin made Sabrina earn every single point she scored. This is the blueprint. This represents what professional women's basketball should look like every night. Remember this standard, because the next 4 obstacles operate completely differently.
Coming in at number 4, we are gonna go with Jackie Young. Jackie Young obviously is paired with A'ja Wilson, Las Vegas Aces, world champs. They might be the best duo in the league. I think Jackie Young is the second best guard in the WNBA after Caitlin Clark. Jackie Young is a flat-out beast, right? She's a monster on both ends of the floor, and she's running with A'ja Wilson, the reigning MVP. So that is going to be a tough matchup, not only offensively because Jackie Young gets it done on offense. Jackie Young actually takes the challenge and tries to guard the hell out of Caitlin Clark.
Jackie Young lands at number 4, and now we're entering dangerous territory. Sure, her offensive numbers tell part of the story, like those 22 points per game she averaged against Indiana last season, but that's not what makes her special. Jackie Young ranks as the second best two-way guard in the entire league behind Caitlin Clark, and that defensive intensity completely changes the game. Go back and study their October meeting. Jackie picked up Caitlin at half court for 32 straight minutes, stayed glued to her on every drive attempt, battled through every single screen, forced her to fight for every centimeter of space. Caitlin still managed 28 points, but needed 24 attempts to get there. That's the Jackie Young impact, and she's running alongside A'ja Wilson, your reigning MVP, who put up 27 and 12 last season. This pairing might represent the strongest duo in professional women's basketball right now, which turns every Fever versus Aces matchup into a legitimate examination. Can Caitlin single-handedly carry an offensive attack against elite defensive pressure, while simultaneously trying to contain the league's most unstoppable force? That's the puzzle Jackie Young creates, and Vegas is only getting stronger as they chase another title
season. So I have the great Jackie Young coming in at number 4. Now, the third biggest obstacle is because of the people. It's because of the people. Paige Bueckers. Paige Bueckers is legit. We love Paige Bueckers' game. Now, Paige fans are trying to make it something. They starting to act a little oppy. It's weird. It's getting weird, okay? We don't got no beef with y'all. We love Paige. We love her game. Y'all starting to do too much. It's getting real weird with y'all. It's getting very, very weird with y'all. But Paige has the game. Now we have to see, in order for this thing to really be competitive, they got to get a better team around her. Like, Dallas Wings were garbage, which is why they have the #1 pick in the draft, because they are not competitive. It was worse than the gum on the bottom of the shoe of the league, Chicago Sky and Angel Reese.
Now we hit number 3 with Paige Buckers, and this situation comes loaded with complications. Paige absolutely has the skill set. That's not up for debate. She scores from anywhere, creates for teammates, guards multiple positions. The raw ability is obvious, but talent alone doesn't translate to victories, and Dallas was an absolute disaster last season. They limped to a 9-31 record, dead last in the entire league. They were so terrible, they made Chicago look functional, and Chicago was starting Angel Reese at center, despite her being 6 feet tall. That's how far Dallas had fallen. Now they're bringing in the top pick along with rookies, Maddie Sigrist, Layla Lacan, and Zaza James, fresh faces with potential. Sure, but rookies need development time, and you don't get that luxury in a 40-game sprint. Here's the core problem. Paige requires a supporting cast that can actually perform at the professional level. She needs experienced players who understand rotations, spacing, and pressure moments. Dallas doesn't possess that foundation right now. So while Paige versus Caitlyn should produce must-see television, the reality will probably be Caitlyn dropping 35 points while Paige desperately tries to keep Dallas from getting embarrassed. The framework exists for an incredible rivalry, but Dallas needs at least 2 more seasons of roster construction before Paige can legitimately compete for anything significant. That's not criticism of Paige, that's just acknowledging the mess she's inheriting.
The top 2, this is going to be the number 2 toughest opposition for Caitlin Clark. It's on her own damn team, Kelsey Mitchell. Yeah, I said it. Y'all know Kelsey Mitchell is nice. She's a bucket. But Kelsey Mitchell can get in that mode to where she only want to dribble, and shoot every time. Then coming off the success of last season, you got Stephanie White saying, oh, she's the focal point again. We're building around Kelsey Mitchell. Before backtracking, obviously it must be true that the Suns owner got on Stephanie White and said, hey, what the hell are you doing? This is the Caitlin Clark show. Get it together or you got to get out. Then she backtracked and said, this is Caitlin Clark's team. I don't believe she's going to act on it. I think Stephanie White's going to try to have this thing running through Kelsey Mitchell. And I think Kelsey Mitchell is going to think this is last year without Caitlin Clark. And she's going to want to do her thing. She saw all the publicity she got. She's going to want to keep doing that. She's going to get a max deal. Okay, so she's going to be real comfortable in Indiana.
Time for the uncomfortable truth. Number 2 is Kelsey Mitchell, and she plays for Caitlyn's own team. This gets awkward fast because Kelsey Mitchell has genuine ability. She averaged 19 points last season, creates her own scoring opportunities, and carried that franchise for years. All accurate statements. But here's the other side of that story. Before Caitlyn's arrival, Indiana was constructed around Kelsey's isolation-focused approach. Dribble 3 times, pull up for a contested jumper. That system worked adequately for a team with modest expectation. Then Caitlyn showed up and instantly Indiana became the highest scoring offense in professional women's basketball. Not through more isolation plays, but through ball movement, tempo, and Caitlyn's genius for creating advantages for everyone around her. Remember what happened during the offseason? Stephanie White, the new head coach, went public, saying the offense would feature Kelsey Mitchell as the centerpiece. She called Kelsey their primary focus and claimed they were building everything around her game. Then mysteriously, those comments got walked back within 48 hours. League sources suggest Fever ownership had a direct conversation with Stephanie about whose team this actually represents. Kelsey just locked in a maximum contract extension. She's financially secure, getting paid handsomely, and experienced the spotlight that comes with playing next to women's basketball's biggest attraction. The real question becomes whether she's prepared to modify her approach to fit what actually produces wins, or if she plans to reclaim the usage numbers she enjoyed before Caitlyn's arrival, because the mathematics don't lie. Indiana's offensive efficiency jumped from 98.2 to 104.6 when Caitlyn was on the floor last season. That's a revolutionary improvement, and it happened because Caitlin led the entire league with 8.4 assists per game, making every teammate more effective. But that formula only functions if everyone commits to playing within that framework. If Kelsey decides she wants to return to attempting 18 shots per game on isolation, that creates internal conflict, slows down their attack, and makes Indiana much easier to defend. That's exactly why Kelsey Mitchell might represent Caitlin Clark's second biggest challenge this season.
I think that's going to be Caitlin Clark's second toughest opposition is her own backcourt mate. And Caitlin Clark's toughest opponent this season will be, drum roll please, Stephanie White. This head coach is not the coach for Caitlin Clark, man. I've seen enough. I don't believe it. Once you put that girl at small forward, it was a wrap. It was a wrap for me. Once I saw you did that, you try to put the ball in Ari McDonald hands over Caitlin Clark, you have lost your damn mind, Stephanie White. I think that is going to be Caitlin Clark's toughest opponent this season, is her own.
Finally, we reach number 1, Stephanie White, the head coach. Now we need to address what actually happened last season and why it's probably going to repeat itself. Stephanie White got hired specifically to install defensive structure on a team that desperately needed it. Indiana surrendered 202 points per game in 2024, third worst in the entire league. They already had offensive weapons. They needed someone to build a defensive system that could get stops. That was literally the job description. Instead, Stephanie White arrived and immediately started messing with their offense. The offense that was already working perfectly fine. She slowed down their pace, installed some ancient half-court system that belonged in 203, and attempted to convert Caitlin Clark into a small forward. Let me say that again because it's important. She tried to move the best point guard in professional women's basketball, the player who led the entire WNBA in assists, away from the ball and into a forward position. When that predictably failed, she started giving possessions to Erica Wheeler, a backup point guard, while Caitlin stood in the corner watching. The highest usage college player in basketball history, the woman who orchestrated Iowa's entire offensive system for 4 years, was relegated to standing in the corner while someone else brought the ball up court.
Because they are teammates of Cece. Don't get it confused. I think Stephanie White is going to be completely in the way again, and within 5 games, all of the fans are going to be yelling, "Fire Stephanie White" once again. I truly, truly believe that is going to be Caitlin Clark's toughest opposition for the 2026 WNBA season. I want Stephanie White gone still because I feel like she came here and messed up the offense. I'm gonna be real with you. This was the highest scoring team in the league. You did not need to change or tinker with the offense at all. All you had to do was bring the defense, and you refused to do that. You wanted to go insert your own offense that was completely boring and garbage to watch at Connecticut. So I think that is Caitlin Clark's toughest opposition for the 2026 WNBA season.
What makes this situation particularly maddening is Connecticut, where Stephanie White coached before Indiana, ran one of the slowest offenses in professional women's basketball. They averaged 94 possessions per game, bottom 5 in pace league-wide. Their offensive rating sat at 99.1, below average across the board. That approach worked in Connecticut because they had elite defensive personnel and were grinding out victories in a competitive Eastern Conference. But that's completely wrong for Indiana. Indiana has Caitlin Clark, who dominates in transition, creates advantages in open space, and punishes defenses that can't get organized. Slowing that down to run some methodical half-court attack represents coaching malpractice, and the results proved it conclusively. Indiana's offensive rating actually decreased in games where Stephanie White shortened rotations and reduced pace. They performed better statistically when she simply let them play fast, yet she kept forcing her system, kept trying to demonstrate that her methods worked even when all evidence pointed in the opposite direction. The defense, by the way, barely improved at all. They still gave up 100 points per game, still couldn't defend pick and roll actions, still had 0 rim protection. So Stephanie White failed completely at what she was hired to accomplish while simultaneously making them worse at what they already did well. Here's what this means for the 2025 season, because none of these issues disappeared. Stephanie White already revealed her priorities, and unless something dramatic changes, we're going to see identical problems all over again. First, the Kelsey Mitchell situation. Stephanie publicly called Kelsey their offensive focal point before reversing course, which tells you exactly where her instincts lead. She wants to run offense through Kelsey's isolation game instead of Caitlyn's playmaking brilliance, and if ownership hadn't intervened, that's precisely what would have happened. But being told to change direction doesn't mean she's actually bought into it. Coaches have subtle ways of controlling usage: who gets the ball in crucial moments, who takes the final shot, who handles in late game situations. Watch those moments carefully, because that's where Stephanie's real priorities will surface. Second, the pace problem. Stephanie White believes in slowing things down and grinding out possessions. That's her comfort zone. That's what she knows, and completely changing your coaching philosophy is incredibly difficult even when the evidence demands it. So expect Indiana to still rank in the bottom half of pace even though they have perfect personnel to run and gun. Expect them to walk the ball up instead of attacking in transition. Expect them to settle for contested mid-range attempts instead of creating advantages in space. Third, the defensive scheme disaster. Defense in the WNBA isn't about just installing a system and hoping it works. You need specific personnel, size, length, lateral quickness, and defensive intelligence. Indiana lacks enough of those components. Aaliyah Boston is solid, but not a rim protector. Melissa Smith has athleticism, but stays inconsistent. Their perimeter defense gets beaten off the dribble constantly. No scheme can overcome those personnel limitations, but Stephanie White will keep trying. She'll keep installing complex rotations that players can't execute, keep switching everything despite not having personnel for it, and keep blaming execution instead of acknowledging her scheme doesn't match the roster. Fourth, and most importantly, the relationship with Caitlyn. Multiple reports surfaced last season about Caitlyn's frustration with the offensive system, feeling constrained and wanting more freedom to operate. The organization quickly shut down those reports, but they came from multiple credible sources. When you study the game film, you can see it clearly. Moments where Caitlyn looks confused by play calls, where she's obviously expecting the ball but doesn't get it, where she's calling for specific actions but the team runs something completely different. That represents a coaching failure. A communication breakdown stemming from fundamental philosophical differences. Caitlyn wants to play fast, create advantages, and make the correct play. Stephanie wants to control pace, run set plays, and eliminate chaos. These philosophies are in direct opposition, and someone has to compromise. The problem is Stephanie White holds all the power. She controls rotations, calls plays, and decides who plays in crucial moments. Unless ownership steps in again, she's gonna keep trying to force Caitlyn into something she's not. Fifth, that small forward experiment. Playing Caitlin Clark at small forward ranks among the worst coaching decisions in recent WNBA history. Right alongside putting Sue Bird in the post or making Diana Taurasi a spot-up shooter. You don't take your best playmaker and move her away from the ball. You don't take the league's assist leader and convert her into a catch-and-shoot role player. That's not maximizing talent. That's completely wasting it. Yet Stephanie White attempted it repeatedly in multiple games, even after it clearly wasn't working. That reveals everything about her decision-making process. Shows she values her system over her personnel and cares more about proving her scheme works than putting players in position to succeed. Here's where this becomes particularly concerning for Indiana made significant roster moves in the offseason. Brought in new pieces, and they're attempting to build a championship contender. But if Stephanie White continues forcing square pegs into round holes, none of that matters. You can accumulate all the talent in the world, but if your coach can't deploy it effectively, you're not winning anything meaningful. Look at what happened with New York last season. They had talent for years. Sabrina, Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, elite players across the board, but they didn't capture a championship until they got the coaching situation right, until they found someone who could maximize that talent instead of limiting it. That's the difference between a good team and a championship team. Indiana has the foundation in place. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent. Aaliyah Boston is an all-star caliber player. Kelsey Mitchell can score at all three levels. The pieces exist, but pieces become irrelevant if the coaching isn't right. Right now, the coaching isn't right. So when we discuss Caitlin Clark's biggest obstacles for the 2025 season, we're not talking about opposing defenses or physical play or hostile road environments. We're talking about the person calling plays from the sideline, the person controlling her minutes, usage, and role within the system. That's what makes this so incredibly frustrating for fans. We want to see Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark. We want to see her push pace, create chaos, and make plays nobody else can make. We want to see her average 30 points and 12 assists like she's capable of producing. We want to see her carry Indiana to a championship the same way she carried Iowa to consecutive national championship games. But we can't see any of that if the coach won't allow it. We can't see it if every possession becomes a scripted play call. We can't see it if she's standing in the corner watching someone else run the offense. Based on everything we witnessed last season, that's exactly what Stephanie White plans to do again. Maybe things change during the offseason. Maybe Stephanie has a revelation and realizes her system doesn't work with this roster. Maybe ownership has another direct conversation and makes it crystal clear this is Caitlin's team and the offense needs to reflect that reality. Maybe. But don't count on it. Coaches rarely change their entire philosophy overnight, and Stephanie White has been coaching her way for decades. That's not disappearing just because she has a generational talent on her roster. Here's my prediction. Within the first 5 games, fans will be demanding Stephanie White's job again. They'll witness the same slow pace, same predictable offense, same questionable rotations, and they'll lose their minds because everyone knows what this team can accomplish when they just let Caitlin operate freely. The question becomes whether ownership will act, whether they'll have courage to make a coaching change mid-season if things aren't working. Because if they don't, we're gonna waste another year of Caitlin Clark's prime watching her function in a system that doesn't maximize her incredible ability. That would be a tragedy not just for Indiana, not just for Caitlin, but for the entire WNBA, because the league reaches its peak when the best players are allowed to be great. The ratings prove it. The attendance numbers prove